As we end the month of October, we're going to go over the most iconic horror movies in the last 20 years. Welcome to the HolmFront. All right. Welcome to the weekend. I am your host, Tyler. And to my right, as always, is my overly artistic friend, Mitch. Mitch, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a while since we've done Rotten Disparities, but
Well, and since we recorded last,
yeah, it was definitely not a couple hours ago.
definitely not.
Tune in soon for a movie review. Anyway, it's probably yeah. I think I'm gonna do that one after this one. Yeah, whatever. I gotta figure out my schedule. We did a review of Alien Romulus, which we'll be releasing after this, or maybe it came before that. I don't know. YouTube time is a weird thing. So, what did we watch today?
Well, today, or at least half of today.
You know what? Let's back up a little bit. Let's do
Okay.
actual introductions. So,
I'm the
Mitch,
overly artistic friend.
the overly artistic friend.
Is there something else I'm supposed to
which
say?
you'll have a T-shirt soon. You have your links down below. You have two YouTube channels. I figured I'd let you go over where Oscarinas is at right now.
Oh yeah, I mean right now. So the Oscarinas is the award show that I run, and so if you're just joining, that's about retro video games. We're in the years 1992 and 1993. And everything's done, made. It's all up on YouTube right now. You can watch all the episodes except for the winners announcement. So the ceremony to be held in November. We have a date though. We have a date planned. I've got everybody organized. So we're just writing our speeches. I've calculated all the winners. I'm the only one who knows what they are at this time.
So the date is just for the ceremony, not for the release.
So the ceremony, is a live event, which I'm not going to do a lot of advertising for. So
Fair.
But it's a live event, and then we record it, and then I will upload a video that shows us like announcing all the winners. So that'll come out, later in November, probably around Thanksgiving time.
Nice.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any other videos planned for your other channel, or?
I do, but I mean, how long do you want me to go on?
I just figured you just throw as much as you can in a short amount of time as you can, and then we'll move on.
Well, I got another video for my personal channel. I'm going to be talking about comparing Super Metroid with Metroid Dread to see how much Dread lives up to Super Metroid, which is of course the iconic that set the standard for all Metroidvanias. And then Dread came out, and it's actually a pretty good game, but there's some interesting things to compare. So I'm working on that. I probably have like 15 other things, but I don't remember them right now, so I'll pass on the rest.
And here you are recording a video with me today.
Yeah.
So we watched the movie. What movie was it? What did you think?
So we watched The Ring about a few months ago.
Yep.
And then we sat down and watched The Ring 2. A vastly superior film in every way.
Every way.
Okay, but the reason this is a Rotten Disparities is really because of the original. I don't know if you want to put that up now.
Yeah.
But because the original, I was surprised. It's 71% critics, and you're going to have to defend audiences on there because I think audiences are flat out wrong. 48%, that's harsh. This is a good movie.
Well, then you have the second one, which just...
Well, that's a different movie.
Yeah, we'll get to that one. Okay, so all right, so Ring 2. I'm sorry, the Ring 1. First one.
What are audiences missing? This is a classic horror movie.
It's an iconic one, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
So we've gone over this before. You are historically not a horror movie fan.
No. In
general. With good reason.
I don't like the slasher stuff. I don't like the
fair. Fair enough. And then I had a phase, and occasionally I will indulge, but not so much as I did back then. I would just watch all of it, whatever was out, or had come out, or I would just watch a bunch of horror movie.
All of them. I remember as teenagers, I was just like, man, you've seen it all.
Yeah. So when I watched this one, I don't know if I was just desensitized, but I was like, okay, didn't seem as iconic as like everybody's making it out to be.
Hmm.
Because there's a couple scenes in there, like the face for one, and then the phone ringing in the 7 days. Like everybody knows that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'd heard all the stuff, and then I watched, and I was like, all right, okay, I get it, I guess. And then watching it, recently with you, I was able to look at it more, I guess, critically, just kind of like on a filmmaker's level.
Yeah.
Like, what merit does it have? And I
Mhm.
thought it had quite a bit. So
So it went up in stock over time with you, the original.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean,
Okay.
again, I didn't think it was like as scary as everybody made it out to be. Um, but like I said, when I evaluated it closely, it was like, okay, I really like the color palette of this film. I like the direction. I thought it was really tight.
Yeah.
It has a good pacing to it. And for the most part, like it has a good story. It just
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know. This is one of those that does not make any sense to me
Okay.
because for one, it's just like with Spider-Man. It's so iconic. Everybody knows this
Yeah.
movie. Everybody.
Yeah.
Like these Exorcist and The Ring, and those are like the two that stand out, right? They're
Exorcist, The Ring. I mean, there's lots of horror movies you could think of, but like The Ring is not. I get it's not like the most recognizable horror movie, but you say that name, most people know what you're
most
talking
people.
about.
Yeah, horror movie buffs or not.
Even
I
if you've
mean,
not seen it, you're aware of it.
yeah.
I mean, it was like a. Well, you were telling me earlier too before we started filming, like how people would prank each other and like call you.
And these are just anecdotal stories. I mean, these are
Yeah.
people that I knew personally, but they would like have seen it, and then they would know that someone else was about to watch it, or they would set it up, and then
Right.
they'd like, they have their cell phone or something next to them, and then when the phone rings in the movie, they would like call the house phone or something, and it would like freak him out or whatever.
Well, yeah,
Anyway,
because it came out in like 2002.
right.
So
Everybody had a house phone
yeah.
at that point.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, so it's iconic. And I have not heard too many people say bad things about it, like in a critical sense. So I'm not really sure why a 48% would be warranted.
Yeah, it's almost like this is what I mean about horror movie fans sometimes. Sorry, horror movie fans, I'm picking on you guys again. But this is the month of October. We're talking about horror movies a lot. But like, it just seems like they have pick arbitrary battles. Like, this is the hill you're gonna die on, The Ring. Like, this is the one that's whatever. Like, seriously, there's so many other horror movies that I would be like, downvote that.
That's fair.
Like, why does this one get so much heat? I mean, you think of like this, like I get it's not like the scariest horror movie ever, but
Sure.
it's got it where it counts, and that's the whole point out of a good movie.
I don't think it had any less than the average. Like,
Yeah.
at least not in, type of scare, I suppose. Maybe it had a few less, like jump scares or something. But I mean,
Yeah.
I was, it was when we were just reviewing it, the first one was like, it's very similar to Sixth Sense, in my opinion. Like the way
Yeah.
it's shot and paced and kind of, I was like, okay.
There's a lot of investigative work, which
Right.
is nice. But they set the stakes pretty strong. Both movies do, actually. It's a good comparison.
Oh, for Sixth Sense and this
Yeah,
one,
because
yeah.
Sixth Sense, you see the guy he's failed to help, and he's like kind of losing marbles at the beginning, and then he shoots Bruce Willis, and then he shoots himself.
Right,
and you're
right,
like,
right,
oh
yeah.
my goodness. And then this movie, similar thing. It's opening scene. It's like two teenagers, and so you're thinking, oh, stereotypical horror movie. But then it shows you the face after she's been killed by the ghost, and it's like the most horrific thing you've ever seen in your life. It's like
They put
oh!
they put some serious time in making sure that this stuck with you for a while.
Right. Well, because again, they don't have a lot of jump scares throughout the whole
Right.
movie, so they're like, now this is a threat, and it's like, I got it.
And they did a pretty good job of leading up to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will say too that this one is one of those that like builds the tension and then it delivers. It's like,
Yep.
yeah, whatever you think is coming, like it's gonna be worse.
Right.
And that scene, yeah, and they don't give it away right away either. They wait for a while, like everybody talks about it,
Yeah.
and then they give you that glimpse, and it's like, anyway, so yeah, so considering how iconic it is, how much it spoke to like it was a cultural icon when it came out. Like
I thought
people
yeah,
were talking about it all over the place.
Talking about it all the time.
People would say like 7 days, like it was just a thing. So I don't understand. Don't know.
Well, I appreciate the valiant effort.
Yeah, it was valiant for sure.
Yeah.
I really gave it my college try.
I know. Critics liked it better though, which is interesting.
Well, okay, let's do that then. Explain that. Like, what do you think that critics liked about a horror film?
So,
or this horror
I
film, I
mean,
should
they
say.
definitely like it because it has style,
Yes.
and they're okay to forgive like. So let's temper it. They gave it like a 71.
They did.
It's like, so it's not, through the moon, but it's a decent passable score.
Yeah.
So, it looks nice. It has, I guess a fairly basic story, but there's like enough intrigue to keep you invested from beginning to end. And it keeps revealing things right up until the last minute. That's always good for a horror movie, to have like the strength of your twist of how much you can get like the revelation at the end. Um yeah, and I guess like, I don't know. I wonder if there's maybe some like deeper themes that they want to point out as well. Like the whole nature of it coming through the TV screen, I think is interesting
Mm-hmm.
because, and I don't even know that I quite give you that, artistic interpretive answer, but I know you could play with the idea of like, it's like teenagers, they're showing something around, so it's almost like a social media post gone wrong, right?
Yeah.
It goes viral and
right.
starts killing people or something like that. It's like that before that was such a commonplace thing nowadays. So something really dangerous being spread over the internet, because they do mention that too. They're like, it spread like a virus or whatever. So, yeah, I feel like those elements kind of elevate it. Anytime it seems to be representative of some kind of other substance, then it works better.
Hmm.
Gore Verbinski's is also really good at like commanding your attention. I feel like he does a good job with that in Pirates of the Caribbean and in this movie, where there's just a good drive. Like, he doesn't really waste a lot of time. He makes sure that like everything is serving the story in some way, or the characters.
Which Pirates film did he do?
Oh, he did the original 3.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. But you can see with like the first one, I mean, all of them I think are competently directed. It's the writing that goes off rails for the
True.
latter two. But for the first one, at least, he has a really good sense for like, I don't know, he's kind of like a more mild Sam Raimi almost. Like, he's able to like kind of control himself a little more.
Fair. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I think critics liked about it. But, again, like 70%, I feel like this probably wasn't, this is like moderate to positive for them. They were like, good movie, but also I'm not going to, talk about how it should win an Oscar. They weren't willing to go
Sure.
that far with it. So it's just so strange that the audiences, who are the ones that you would think are representative of culture, but I don't know, sometimes as critics, like, you tap into stuff, kind of like when The Social Network came out, a lot of critics were like, this movie's important. And it wasn't even because of like the movie being good. I mean, part of it was that. But it was interesting to hear like critics talking about it as like, oh, this is like really reflective of like something going on right now. And critics really like that.
Gotcha.
So I feel like The Ring kind of tapped into that enough to grab their attention. Maybe. I mean, I could be overreaching. It's just a nicely shot movie.
It is a really nicely shot movie. Yeah. It has a great palette. Great.
Yeah, I mean, that's like my favorite part about the movie.
Yeah.
Honestly, I know it seems silly, but like they chose a style and they just went all
It's
in.
extremely ambient.
Yeah.
It really draws you in with pretty much all the aspects. The music is incredible. Hans Zimmer really delivers on that one. The shots are really good. It's done in a way to draw you in, and storytelling is really strong in the first film.
They use the music. There's this really creepy like ching ching like thing that they do. I'm doing a poor job of it, but
Yes,
you remember,
but
you remember the sound. It plays this like, and it's real quiet, and like all the music and the other sounds like go way down, and then it starts playing that whenever Samara's like gonna go through the TV,
right?
Which I picked up on like as we were watching through a little bit of the first one again, and I was like, ooh, yeah, that's really unnerving. So like good execution of making sure the music and the sounds are complementary to what's going on. It's not hard to make a good horror movie.
So we say. Yeah, I mean the first one it's very compelling, very well done. The story was good. Yeah, I mean, were I to give it a score within the audience range, it would probably be like a 65, 70. It'd probably be around there, because I mean, it's still just like it's a horror movie. Like, you're not getting, it's not like a masterpiece.
I suppose. I mean, I don't know. I'd be willing to go up to like an 80% on this one.
Okay.
I really like it. But I mean, I also feel like it just has I don't like the formula of a lot of horror movies where they're like, we haven't had something scary happen, and it's
Right.
been like,
Just put it in here
15
now.
minutes almost, so we better have something scary happen right now, whether it fits or not. And this movie doesn't really do that. I mean, it has scary sequences.
Right.
There's like a scene where the horse freaks out and then jumps off the um yeah, actually 80's probably a little high just because it does have a couple parts in the movie that are a little bit ridiculous. I mean, the horse jumping off is not that ridiculous. I guess
I
it's a
think
little
they
bit
were
of a
trying to
stretch.
connect in because Samara was on the horse ranch and stuff, and
Yeah.
like,
Samara's the ghost. If you don't
then the
remember.
presence of her is around Naomi Watts' character. So when she approaches the horse
Yeah.
tries to get away. So it's like trying to tell this thing of like, I don't know, she's a bad person on the horse farm, or like the horses
Yeah.
can sense this or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's on a boat. They're like on a ferry or something, and so the horse breaks loose and jumps in the water and
Mm-hmm.
gets churned up by the propeller. So like there's just this sea
Yeah.
of blood behind him.
Yeah. But yeah, and it's a little bit like, okay. I mean, but it makes sense because, earlier, so you watch once you see the tape and then they take a photo of themselves and then their face is all distorted and like warped or whatever.
Yeah,
And that's how they start to figure
yeah.
out that like, okay, it's like they've been marked. And I think actually this is where the appeal of the premise comes in, where it's like you saw something on television and now it's like haunting you.
Hmm.
And I think that's a cool, like,
So you think this is the cultural commentary portion of this
maybe,
film?
yeah, I wonder if part of it is like playing up on, you saw something on the news or whatever that terrified you, and now it's just
Well,
becoming
they make
how
that
you,
comment as well. So there's parents that adopt Samara, and the mother kills herself, but the father's alive still.
yeah,
And so Naomi Watts goes to talk to him, and
yeah,
he's upset because she's a reporter, and he's like, "You reporters just want to like drag this pain out of people and then just
right,
force it on the world so that they get to experience it too." And
yeah,
so you're just kind of hurting everybody with some of this stuff, like, and it brings in the commentary of like, where is the line?
yeah,
Because I think there's stories that are important or lessons that can be learned, but at what cost?
yeah,
And as deep as this can go, it did bring up some of those themes where it's
yeah.
like, you know, maybe at some point you say this is better not to be told.
Yeah, yeah, it's sort of like Let the Dead Rest, because that's what they try to do is, spoilers, but it's kind of an older movie. But like, they try to like put Samara to rest, and so they find the well where she drowned, and and she was trapped there for 7 days, and it takes 7 days for her to die. Basically, that's why you have that time limit. And then they pull her out and they bury her properly, her corpse. It's just like a skeleton now. And then they think that's enough. And then like, you know, the other character, Aiden, the kid, wakes up and he's like, no, like she's not going to be satisfied with that. She never rests. She's never going to forgive.
Yep.
And then she goes out and kills somebody, and you're like, oh. So, but that was like a good, like, it's like this ghost is spiteful. If you think you can just like do the ritualistic thing and appease it, no, it's a monster. And I think that's interesting too.
Yeah, it's taken on a form of evil essentially. It's no longer got the humanity that was before. It's now this new thing,
which is a lot like news or media when it gets posted, especially if it's a falsehood or whatever, and then or it's sensationalism. Maybe.
It takes on a life of its own through the beliefs of the people around it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting. And it also brought up an interesting moral question at the end. Again, spoilers. So Naomi Watts' character finds out that her son Aiden has seen the film.
Yeah.
And now realizes that he's been marked, so he's 7 days essentially. And so she has to help him make a copy to show to someone else, and then basically just leave them with that problem. Like, all right, it's yours now.
Yeah, this is how you essentially redirect the ghost onto someone else.
Right. And there's 2 other films that came out recently that do this kind of similar idea. One was Smile, and then the other one was It Follows. And it was essentially something you had to pass on in order for you not to reap the benefits, or not the benefits, the consequence.
Oh boy!
That's how you look at it, I guess. If death is sweet release to you, then
oh my gosh, yeah,
that's what that is.
But
yeah,
it's interesting to cite its influence though on other films.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how much it was influenced, but it obviously was way before those ones. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a mother that was doing anything to protect her son, and so now she's helping him create this thing to pass on to someone else, which is a lot to ask because you're basically signing someone else up for death
Yeah.
because there's no other way
Like,
to
does she
stop it.
explain to him what to do? And if so, like, is he even gonna buy it?
Right,
You know?
exactly.
Yeah.
So that was another interesting moral quandary of the film. And so there was plenty to think about once you've watched it and, left it behind. It was enough. I mean, it's not, like I said,
Yeah.
it's not like super deep or anything, but
Yeah.
it has enough to say.
I mean, I feel like there's, I mean, how much, so I guess here's the tricky thing is like, does it need to have so much depth and complexity? Critics were like, well, I'm at 70%. That was good enough for me. I got a little substance there. I got a good horror movie. I'm satisfied. And then audiences just like, I don't want this. What is that? A hint of substance in my movie?
Ew.
I just want to be scared the whole time.
I want a horror movie, more jump scares. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of jump scares. There's a good rising tension with this film in certain spots, but
yeah, like when they're investigating the well and that's like the water is seeping into the cabin and then it's like pulling out the screws or whatever. It's like, it's like just kind of unnerving stuff. But I like that better. It's like because it's building up to something. It's like we're gonna get that payoff. I'm happy to wait.
Sure.
And you do get it. You do see Samara like climb out of the TV and then kill somebody, and that's pretty cool. Oh, and like okay, so these are the parts that are kind of funny about this movie, and that I can see people taking it down a notch, but like not very many. But it's like the moment where she goes to sleep and then she wakes up and she's like all covered in makeup, like you can see she's got like this kind of bright warm pink makeup on her lips, and you're like,
everybody go to bed with a full face on.
And so yeah, she just looks like that through the whole movie. So that's a bit of a like leftover from the 90s carrying over into early 2000s filmmaking. And then the other part is that after she sees one of the people who was killed by the ghost, like someone's gonna go up and see them, and she knows it, and she doesn't warn them or anything. She's just like, oh, like I won't say anything. I'd be like, maybe a heads up.
Well, that comes after the scene where the son is like, she'll never sleep. She's always gonna chase us down or whatever.
Yeah.
And so she realizes like, I showed this guy this video. It's today. She like
drives out there.
She rushes over, and this is the scene where you get to see Samara in all of her glory. But she gets there, and there's another horrifying scene where his face is all messed up, and he's like, so she spins him around.
She spins around from a chair, and he's like, and she's like, oh, like freaking out, and then like,
so she loses her mind, totally devastated, but because it's a personal friend of hers as well. The father of her son,
right?
I will point out, leaves and goes down the stairs, and as she's going down, she sees the current girlfriend of this guy getting into the elevator to go see him.
Yeah.
He's still up there with his messed up face.
It's not going to look any different to her.
She just kind of is like, and it's a long scene. It's probably like 30 seconds. She's just sitting there watching.
She's like,
I was like, gonna say anything or tell her don't go up there.
She's gonna scar this one
Gotta
for life.
call the cops.
Because that's what happens to the character at the beginning. Because it's the two girls, the teenagers.
Yeah.
One of them has already seen it. The other has not. Samara comes out, kills one of them. The other sees her and then is like scarred for life.
Yeah, she goes to an insane asylum.
Yeah.
That was
and she's like,
they ship her off.
It's like, dude, little heads
With
up.
this one, she's like, she'll be fine. She'll get over it.
She talked to her.
Yeah.
In the movie, so she knows the effect it can have.
Should have some sympathy here, but nope.
There's a real inconsistency with that too, because like, the police come and they like, they're like, oh, they're not gonna do an open casket. You think? Look at that.
It's a very horrifying face that they put on these people. The teenager is probably the worst, but yeah, I mean, it's still just like.
But the thing that's crazy is like everyone's reaction is just kind of like the mom's like, oh, like it was terrible and stuff, and it's like it's not just terrible. Like the person who went crazy from seeing her, that's the reaction I would expect everybody to have. If I saw somebody like that, it would be like,
if you saw your daughter like that.
Yeah, it's like
done.
I can't even comprehend this. Like,
yeah,
what is going on? There's clearly something supernatural. I mean, what else is there? Like, what else can make you look like that?
Died of fright.
Pretty much.
So yeah, that part was great. Just because it was like, wow, we were just gonna let this person just
Right.
live with
So
this trauma for the rest of her life.
I know. So it's just kind of silly, but also like I don't feel like it drags me that much.
No.
Because it's just kind of like,
No.
well, I need the story to work. I mean, because it's not about how people get traumatized from seeing this face.
Right.
That's
Well,
and
and Naomi Watts is also like trying to get home and figure out what to do with her son as well. So
yeah.
she's trying to deal with the fact that, like, if I go say something and the cops come, I'm gonna have to put in the statement. And I'm gonna be locked here for a while.
Yeah, that's fair.
So like, there's plenty of reasoning that you could put into it.
Yeah.
That it was just like, all right, as much as this person's gonna get hit from this, what's worse? He'll be fine.
I know. Well, and there's plenty of other characters who clearly see these people. Part of me wonders if maybe what we're seeing of her are these like traumatized, these distorted, ghostly destructions is like exaggerated for the audience rather than the characters. I mean, it has to be to some level because, like, can you imagine? You've got to sign a death certificate and you see someone coming in with that face. I'm sure they see lots of crazy crap, but you don't see that.
Yeah, it'll stick out.
And it's like there's a real like it doesn't make sense. It's like this is clearly something beyond what any sensible human being should be able to perceive. And so they should do something about that. There should be some kind of reaction instead there's like, oh well, I guess we'll just have to do closed casket because
Yeah, it's just gonna have to close it up. What?
I'd be like,
what do you mean?
What killed her? Look at that. But like, in fact, I don't want to look at it anymore.
Take it away. Close the casket.
Yeah, it's like it seems like it's gonna attack me.
So
yeah, so good movie.
Yeah.
Audiences are wrong. Go watch it. It's a great horror movie. It's perfect for Halloween.
Yeah.
And while you're at it, watch The Ring 2.
Okay, so I know we didn't say a whole lot on The Ring one, but it's a pretty great. It's just watch it. Like,
yeah,
if you're into horror movies,
yeah, I feel like this is essential. If you
Yeah.
if you want to watch horror movies,
it's
I feel like-
iconic for a reason, and I think it deserves it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess yeah. So, do you have anything else to add for Ring
I don't.
one? Okay.
I think that wraps up Ring 1. I mean, there's lots of other things I could point out and like dissect and examine or whatever, but it's just kind of like it's perfectly satisfying. It's really nicely put together.
It's really tight.
There's
really
lots of
tight
like
script.
little scenes we could get into and be like, oh, look how this scene is shot. Look how well it's put together.
Right.
I could say
Well,
that.
this isn't a movie review. This is the Rotten Disparities. So
right. So I'm just trying to like, I don't know what more I could really add from other people. Do you have anything else you'd add?
No, like I said, I'd probably, you know what? I'll even be more generous. I'd probably give this about a 75%. So
yeah, join me in this 75%.
it could probably, yeah. I mean, in a realistic world, I don't know why that happened. Like, I would have to ask someone who gave it that score or would agree with that score.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what is it
What's
that
your
you were
problem?
disappointed about? Like,
Yeah,
what
I
is it
don't know
not giving you?
Yeah, what did they want? There's not a lot of like.
Was it like, I wanted more of those faces. Like, I wanted at least 6 more people to die like that. I don't know. I couldn't.
Yeah, did they want a body count or something?
It's-
It's clearly not that kind of a movie.
I'm gonna go watch Saw. I can't do this
yeah,
Ring stuff
seriously.
anymore. Okay, so today we watched The Ring 2. I had seen this a long time ago, and I didn't remember most of it. I remember the basic premise of the film, and that's it. I just remembered, I was like, okay, it was something about Samara wanting Naomi Watts to be her mother.
Okay.
I was like, it was a weird premise, because I was like, the first movie doesn't really allude to this being the thing, but okay, I remember that. So, don't remember anything else.
Now you do.
Wow. Yeah, so we watched that today. Initial thoughts?
Well, right now I'm really trying to decide if it's worse than Descent 2. And it is they're both in the running.
That's a close one.
They're both right in that camp. It was bad. It was really bad. Like just deplorably bad. It was so slow. It was so unscary. It was so unscary. Like the opening of the movie.
Well, you have to understand it to be scary. So, I mean, obviously,
Rightfully
nobody
so.
likes this movie.
I mean, even that's kind of generous. 21%. I don't know. It's pretty bad.
It's a little high. I do like the cover. The cover's good. But I think there was one scene I liked in that movie.
Is that when she's climbing out of the
That
well?
was it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's one cool thing they
That's
did where
the
you
only
see
scene.
Samara climb out of the well from within the well.
Right.
That's a really cool sequence because she's like a spider or like some kind of insect.
Right.
Her legs just like
She's
climb
like
up.
flopping her leg up first, and then
Yeah, and then, like,
her hair's like over her face, and
and
she's jerky and kind of odd.
Yeah. That was really cool, and that was the scariest scene of the whole movie, but it was also the only scary scene. So
Yeah. Can it be the scariest if it's the only? Okay, so what initial thoughts? Give me some.
okay, so basically, it's just really badly written. That's like the main problem with the movie, which is really weird because it's the same writer from
Yeah, we looked
the
all that
original
up.
Ring.
Which often I try I try not to do this with Rotten Disparities because I think the film should stand on its own
Yeah,
or not.
but I felt like the first one was decently written. I
Right.
mean, it's not like a
And
masterpiece.
so that's the
It's not
only
gonna win a
reason we
Pulitzer, but
checked
it's
because I
good.
was like, is it? And then when we found out, we're like, what happened to you? What?
Yeah, I
Was
don't
he
know
just-
what he was thinking.
I'm thinking either he just got lazy or it just went through some kind of production hell. Like it just went through too many hands potentially.
Yeah, maybe it made more sense to him, and then after it got into the director's hands, he just
He went ham in a way that he shouldn't because it was a different director.
yeah.
But the weird thing is that the director was the one for the original Ring, like the Japan or the Japanese version,
Yeah,
which
so
apparently is a horrifying film. I have not seen it myself, but
Yeah.
apparently it's pretty terrifying.
one day we'll have to do those others, but because he made the Ring and the Ring 2, the Japanese
Right.
versions, and the first one of those is really highly regarded. It's like a 98% or something
Yeah.
with critics. It's like really phenomenal.
And
And
it's
then
somewhere around an 80 for audience.
okay,
Yeah.
and then he made a sequel in Japan, and then Gore Verbinski makes an English version or for like a Western audience. And then that director from the Japanese films, he comes and he does
The
the sequel
sequel,
instead
right.
of Verbinski, and it's just a disaster. I don't know what. I mean, he's making like the same movie, I guess, but maybe not. I don't know.
Couldn't tell. It was one of the most incoherent scripts I've seen in a while.
Yeah, it just judders all over the place.
Like not quite as bad as Megalopolis, but it was pretty incoherent.
I love how that one's now the standard. For
Oh, that's a
incoherent
hard.
scripts.
That is a standard. That was the most incoherent movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's fair. It was pretty bad.
So yeah, I mean, there was. Not only was it trying to bite off more than it could chew, which it was constantly doing. It was like just kind of cramming stuff in, and you're like, what does this have to do with anything? But then it would just veer off into these. Like, there's a whole sequence in the middle there that just makes zero sense. And it is an expensive scene.
Which one? There's a couple.
The elk scene.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they're driving and then this elk is like goes out in front of the road, and then Aiden and her son's like, stop, like, or he's like keep going, don't stop. And
Well, she stops because it runs in the middle, and so she
Yeah.
doesn't want to hit it.
yeah.
And then he like freaks out. She's, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. And then these other elks come and like attack the car.
Yeah, they're like bashing their heads into the
Yeah,
car
and they're trying to like get in there to
like
okay, so
gouge them out or something.
our guess is that the implication is that Samara is in Aiden, and that the elk can sense that. I don't know why.
And it
This
wants
is
to
my
kill
best
her
guess.
because her dad hunted elk because he has like 10,000 elk horns
Right.
in the basement of their house. Like 10,000. I'm not even joking. It's not like, a couple. No, there's like a mountain of them.
There's like 3 or 4
huge
mounds
freaking
in this
pile.
basement. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he has
What?
like they're all hanging from the It's like what is this? He's like a serial murderer for these elks or something. What is going on? And it wasn't Samara that does it either. It's her like
Yeah.
adopted father, the one that kills himself in the
Yeah.
first movie. So he's not even related to her.
Wait,
So-
no, I thought that was her real father. Isn't it?
No, it's the adopted.
The adopted one?
Yeah. Right?
Well, they did say the last name was Morgan. I don't know. I can't keep up. I just thought it was weird because that wasn't the same house.
Because I could be incorrect. He's the one married to the one that kills her, and she was like the abusive
Yeah.
adopted mother.
Yeah.
Because the other one, the real mother, is the one that got admitted to the asylum that she sees in the second one.
Yes.
So if I'm correct,
I guess it would have to be him. You're right, because
right,
they said they didn't know the father. Like,
right.
there was never any clarity on that. It's just some rando, I guess. So yeah, I guess it was him.
So someone with no connection. So and the only reason that we knew that was that they showed the basement where they have all these antlers in there, and it's like, okay, so does that have something to do with why they were attacking the car?
But it's like, that's
I
not
guess.
scary. That's
No.
just stupid. Especially when the CGI looks bad.
It was terrible. But the thing about it was, it doesn't fit the movie. It's like so far removed.
It's in broad daylight.
Yeah,
Which, by the way, this is the reason this movie totally, utterly fails, is that they just removed all the fancy filters, and it's just shot like any old movie. It's like, all right, well,
which they did with Descent as well. They just like took away the mood of it, the ambiance.
So it's like, why am I here?
And then they just like put pause. They're like, all right, hold on. There's a bunch of elk that's going to come through. It's going to be a wild scene. You're not going to understand a thing, and then we'll get back in the movie. Because then it does not address it at all ever again. It just is like, yeah, that happened at one point.
Yeah.
And you're like, why did it happen? Don't know.
Yeah.
They just put it in there.
It was full of so
and
many.
Like I said, they were all CGI. There was like probably 50 elk on the screen at one point. They're all CGI.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like 2005. This cannot be cheap. This has to be an extremely expensive scene.
For no reason, it doesn't accomplish anything.
And it didn't justify itself at all.
Yeah,
it just like, man, it was so bizarre. It was so disconnected. I just remember like thinking about it afterwards. What happened there? Why did this go on? And you can't let it go either. You're like trying to justify it in your head or connect it somehow.
I mean, I went into full-on survival mode with this movie. I was just like, okay, we'll just 30 minutes more. Okay, 25 minutes more. But it was just kind of like, deep breaths, like hang in there, go to the long fall. It's only an hour and a half, but man, it felt like 3.
It did.
It was just, oh man, there's so many scenes where it's like, okay, move on.
This is also another prime example of convenience in a film. Because there's so many instances where you're just like, this would never happen this way.
There's like 4 within like the very beginning of the movie.
Yep.
It's
well,
like
the first one and this one was so egregious. Someone tells a story to her in the beginning. Oh, it's like she's a reporter, so she goes out and a bunch of these reporters are around a police scanner and they're talking about this kid that died and he has a face. So like that's supposed to clue you in the fact that like, oh no, it's just like the first movie.
Well, they show that scene. I want to back up just for a minute there because the movie opens in a similar type of way as the first one, where you have 2 teenagers and they're but like one of them, it's like this time it's like a boyfriend girlfriend situation. He's trying to get her to watch this tape, and it's like really funny too because she's like, aren't we gonna do like sexy stuff basically?
Right.
And then he's like, well, I have this really scary tape.
Let me get you in the mood.
To get you in the mood, basically. And she's like, well, I don't know that I really want to watch that. And
he's like, no, you're gonna watch it.
You're gonna watch it,
and then you can sleep with me. And I was like, I don't think this works this way, but all right, sure.
Yeah, so like he hands her the tape, then he leaves the room.
Yeah, he leaves her alone.
He doesn't even put it on. He just like hands it to her and walks out, and then she has to put it on.
Well,
I was
what? He has like 2 minutes left until Samara shows up. It's like you waited until now. You have 7 days. You didn't want to like do it maybe before right now,
right?
At any point.
And so she doesn't watch it. She puts the tape on and then she covers her eyes because she's a teenage girl and she's scared. Wow.
Yeah.
Like
her boyfriend just ditches her and he's like, you're gonna watch this thing and it's the scariest thing you've ever seen, but you're gonna watch it alone real quick and then I'll be back.
He can't even sit back and like hold her hand and then close his eyes. I mean, he's a jerk for doing this in the first place, but like there's just like so many ways he could have that would have like made more sense, and instead he's just this total a-hole. Anyways, he goes,
because he like does all this work of like getting this chick on a date with him.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right.
Yeah, because he gets a call from his friend. He's like, you made it, man. He's like, yeah, I just pulled some like idiot from school or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was like,
he's just gonna get this girl butchered. Just what the heck?
I don't think she deserved that.
No. So yeah, then he dies, obviously.
Yes, Samara comes out of the TV, kills him. And then she's traumatized because she saw him get killed.
Right.
Understandably.
And then that broadcast, and then Naomi Watts shows up.
Right.
and she just happens to show up as the parents are coming out, so she gets to hear some conversation with them and like the detective or whatever. And she gets to see the body being rolled out, and
Yeah.
he's in like a body bag, so they put him in the back of an ambulance,
Yeah.
and then they leave it alone. Because
Right.
that's what you do. You just
Right.
throw him in the back of the ambulance, and you're like, all right, let's go find something else to do real quick.
Yeah. Let everybody take 5-minute break.
Yeah.
And then so
give
she
me a
can
break.
go into the ambulance
She
and
goes
check
into
on
the
the body.
ambulance. He pulls off the blanket, opens the body bag, looks
Which
at
takes
him.
like 5 minutes, by the way.
Dude,
It's
she
so
stares for
long.
so long, and then Samara shows up, and then
Yeah, Samara, like, so she opens it, and then it's like his face, which, by the way, didn't look anywhere even half as good as the Gore Verbinski
yeah,
faces.
like the 3-year-old or 3-year previous movie. Like
yeah,
it was way better.
This one looked like the zombies in I Am Legend, where they're like, "Argh!" and they have like massive like jaws that extend
the
out here.
CGI. Like.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. And then there's like some flashy image where it's like, Samara comes out of him, and then she's like, and then like moves on, and that didn't really happen. It was just there to scare you just for the heck of it.
Yeah, there was no purpose for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that happens, and then she goes to the police precinct.
Yeah.
And
with one of the worst shots I think I've ever seen in any movie.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know what was.
She like walks in and out of it, and it just doesn't move. It's like, all right, I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm not moving my camera. I was like, dude, just shift with the actress, man.
It's hard to describe, but it was the kind of shot that made me think that the rest of the room they couldn't show. So like if they moved, you would have seen.
It's like The Room. They weren't allowed to film in there, but they did it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, hi, Johnny. I didn't know it was you.
Yeah, it was totally one of those scenarios. So they're just like, okay, just keep it there. Just walk up real quick. Okay, we got it. And it's like, this just looks stupid.
We got it. Let's go. We can't. There's no other takes.
Yeah.
But so then, while she's there, she asks to see this person. The guy obviously tells her
the girl who saw the victim.
And then she just happens to look over, and they just happen to leave her alone. They're like, "You're gonna come sit outside, and we're gonna go
over in this other room there for reasons.
We're just gonna go over
just
there.
Sit here.
Like,
for no particular purpose.
Did anyone notice that we've left this important girl alone? Because we're gonna leave her alone now."
So then she goes up and talks to her by crossing over there's like clearly
there's like a do not cross gate, and she's like, this doesn't apply to me. It just goes
she goes
in.
up and talks to her.
Yeah, has this whole full-fledged conversation, and then the cop comes out and
halfway through the conversation,
he comes out and he's like, "Get out of here," and she's like, "All right." And then she keeps talking.
Yeah, the conversation lasts for like another 4 exchanges.
He's just like, "Well, I don't know what else to do.
I told her to leave. I guess she didn't listen.
I guess I'll just stand here and she'll finish her conversation, whatever it is that they're sharing with each other."
So dumb.
It just was like, really? I mean, how immersive do you want this to be? Because like my suspension of disbelief just went out the window immediately. So
and then it's followed up with another scene. Like the next scene, she goes back to the house and she's like fumbling with these rocks and like on the outside.
So she goes to the house where the kid dies, which is not her house. She goes and just happens to find their spare key.
Yeah.
And since they're at the police precinct, she just lets herself in. And it's like,
so she can get the tape.
There's no police here or detectives. This is a crime scene.
Right.
A guy just died that night.
Right.
And they're like,
and the only piece of evidence you have is the tape.
Well, they got the tape, they got the witness, and they're just like, crime scene's good. We got enough. We got all we need. It was just like, okay, come on.
Yeah. So she gets the tape, and then she destroys the tape, and then the rest of the movie.
That was a great scene, by the way. She like drives
Yeah.
way out by this lake and doesn't do anything with the lake. You think she's gonna like throw it in the water or something?
No.
And she finds a fire barrel. Like,
yeah,
this steel barrel out there with a bunch of fuel in it. And so she just dumps some gasoline in.
Yeah.
And then she lights it on fire, and it's like, why did we come all the way out here for this? You don't want to like, well, why are you here? Why are we? This is weird. This is a lot of work for just, you could have burned this anywhere.
Yeah.
So that happens, and it's like hissing and like,
yeah.
And you can hear like a voice
or like her face like, it's like, and it
like,
looked really.
Is this a Horcrux? What is this? What's going on?
It's interesting how, it just loses all of its credibility. Because, I mean, The credibility basically plummets into 0 with the elk scene, but that's later, right? Like
Is
that's
that the scene where you told me you're like any credibility this
yeah.
movie could have regained is gone?
Yeah, at the
Okay.
elk scene, that's when I was like, we're done.
It's
There's no recovering from this. This was so ridiculous and stupid.
the thing about it too.
Like she ran into an elk and it rolled over the car. Like, give me a break.
And it served nothing.
Yeah, it was
and
so
it's
dumb.
such a long scene. It's
I
probably
know
like
we're talking. We've spent more time talking about that.
I
scene.
know.
It's just like it's so long.
well, it's like
what are we doing?
it's got to be like 2 or 3 minutes. I wish I timed it, but it's like
Yeah.
it's like 2 or 3 minutes of the movie, which I know doesn't sound long, but when in the context of a film, like that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: someone had to write it, he had to direct it, someone had to do all the CGI for it, they had to act for it,
Right.
and at no point was anybody like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah. What is this?
What is
scene
this doing?
serve?
Because it
What are we
serves
doing with it?
nothing.
Right.
And in fact, like I can't let it go. So it just distracts you from the rest of the movie because you're just like, why did that happen? Because that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
Right. It's arguably what they spent the most time on. Perhaps
Probably the most
maybe-
money.
Yeah, probably. The only other scene that might rival it is the one. I mean, I guess there's the one where she's climbing out of the well. That doesn't seem that as expensive though. Maybe difficult to shoot, but like maybe. But then and then the bathtub one where she makes her son take a bath, who's also like freaked out, like he's afraid, he's got a fear of water, and he's like, oh, I don't want to go in there. And she's like, you're gonna take a bath. We gotta get your body temperature up. It's like, maybe we just put him by a fireplace. Is that okay with a screen?
Maybe 2 blankets instead of 1. a
Cup of hot
jacket,
cocoa?
perhaps.
Like
it was just you're watching it and you're like, why are you
Get in there,
forcing this kid in here?
I'm gonna cure your hypothermia, and I'm gonna cure it now, and we're gonna cure it my way.
Well, the funny thing is, like, because she finds out later
that was a bad
that-
idea.
well, no, it's a good idea because she like doesn't like baths or
Yes.
whatever.
Right.
But she doesn't know that at the time.
Right. So
to anyone outside, they're like,
Mhm.
this chick's just forcing her kid to do something that he's clearly terrified of doing.
right.
This looks a little abusive to me.
Yeah.
So I would have
Right.
called CPS
Which,
too.
especially when she's like holding him under the water, because like
Yeah.
she has
Okay.
this flash of like Samara coming out of the water, and she's like, "Oh, it's Samara. It's not
Well,
my
here's
son.
the-
so
here's the
better
funny
drown
thing.
the crap out of her."
It's the other scene that was like really ridiculous because she goes to, and then this is the other hot guy, I guess.
Yeah.
So she's working with this guy, and the one attractive guy that works there
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
into her
yeah.
office and is like, "Oh, is this the love interest? This is okay, cool,
Uh-huh.
that's great." Didn't see that coming. So he comes in,
Mhm.
and then when she's having trouble, she just goes to his house.
Yeah.
They're not trying to have a relationship of any kind. They barely
Nope.
know each other, and that's like clear in the movie. And she's like, you know what? He's the one I'm gonna go to, and it's like, I don't see
Why?
the justification.
Because she moves to Oregon. The first one takes place in
Right.
Washington. This one's in Oregon. She
But
doesn't know anybody, and he specifically comments that you're new in town. You don't know anybody here. That's rough.
yeah,
Okay?
he
So like,
mentions that
there's no
she's-
connection with this guy.
He mentions that she's like ambitious or whatever. But anyway, so she brings her kid to his house,
Mm-hmm. And then she's
and
like,
she's like, I need to draw him a bath, and he's like, sure, yeah, okay. So they draw the bath, and she puts him in there. She puts him in the bath.
Yeah.
And then walks up and was like, I gotta go.
yeah, she's like, I gotta run to the house and get some stuff.
Not only you
Can you
making this
watch him?
random guy watch your like 12-year-old kid or however old it is,
Yeah.
but you're leaving him in a bath. Like I feel like you're just setting this thing up to go the wrong way. So she leaves,
Yeah.
and then
To
the
get
door gets shut, and then it's
something
water
that
just
didn't
starts
matter.
pouring out of this bathroom.
Yeah.
So in his house, he's getting this like severe water damage, and
Yeah.
he can't get in the bathroom. So he's panicking that something's happened to this kid. And then she comes home, and then for some reason, for some arbitrary reason, the door just happens to open when she gets there. So she goes in, and she sees that Samara's like trying to take over the kid, or I don't know. What
She's like coming out of the drain and like grabbing him and he's just like
and
letting it
to be
happen.
fair, it was a cool shot because it looked
Yeah.
like, the water's like coming out of the tub and like hitting the ceiling and stuff. So I
Mhm.
mean, it's a pretty dramatic looking scene.
Yeah.
But she goes in, and the water recedes and like falls to the ground and stuff, and then the bath refills or whatever, and she sees Samara again in the bath, and it's like fused with her son or whatever, and so she grabs her kid and she's like shoves him underwater. She's like holding him by the neck because she thinks it's Samara, but the guy comes in at that point.
Yeah, and he's like watching this happen.
He's like, "Oh, what do I do?" I was like, How many red flags do you need, sir? How many do you need before you're like, this, we need to do something about this situation? So the doctors come, or she brings him to the hospital, whatever, finally.
Presumably, he
Which is the
tells-
first place she should have gone, but instead she goes to this
Yeah.
random dude's house and then the ER because she's like, well, I guess I'll have to go and get actual help now.
Yeah, because he says, well, we need to take him to the hospital. And she's like, well, they can't help with anything. He has hypothermia. Like, I
Right.
feel like they could do something
I
about
feel
that.
like they got some skills. And then obviously CPS shows up, and so there's this source of tension there. But that's the thing, is it's all so contrived to get to that point.
Yeah.
There's plenty of ways you could have done this easily.
Yeah.
But this, like, it just seems like the most roundabout way to get to the source of tension that you could have used. It was like, man, this is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Not only in the writing, but also like trying to get everybody on board with shooting all of these scenes that are not organic to the story.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you cut all that out, I could deal with. I think it's still weak, but I could deal with the fact that Samara's trying to take the kid's place or whatever. Like,
I think
okay,
it's stupid.
it's whatever. If that's
mean,
the
I
route
get
they
you,
want,
like,
if
it
that's the
can
route they
work.
want to go to, there's more effective ways to tell it. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The way they told it, not only was it a stupid reason, but also it was just this super contrived way of getting to it.
Yeah.
That's why it felt so long, because it was like, I get it. I know what you're doing. To like, just move on, please. And it's like, no. We gotta you gotta repeat it again.
Mm-hmm.
And it just keeps doing that. It tells you like 3 or 4 times it has these scenes that like reiterate a certain point multiple times. And you're just
Yeah.
like,
And it'll like
You
show
just-
you something like, there's one scene where she visits it wasn't an asylum, but it was, I don't know, wherever she gave birth to her child,
oh yeah.
to Samara. So the mom of Samara was originally going to go and drown her in the pool or whatever, because it's like, okay, that's going to get rid of the ghost, and nobody
Right.
could realize that's what it was about. They just thought she was crazy and going to kill her kid for no reason. So like, which actually begs the question then, it's like, so Samara's not really the ghost, it's some other ghost. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah, we're not getting into that one. My gosh.
It's like it shows that scene, and then like immediately after, she's like, she was trying to drown her baby. And we're like, oh my gosh, thank you, I got it. It's just had to
Yeah, because they show the
explain.
flashback and then they say it. It's
Yeah, like we just saw
I
it.
saw it in the
I
flashback.
saw it, and the music was
Choose
like,
one.
no, just taking her to the water. I get it. This movie's all about drowning kids. I
We
can
really
see
like
that.
it a lot. We really want to see that happen to someone. Yeah. Anyway,
So bad.
so all that to say that there was one scene in there that we liked. It's for the most basic of reasons, but whatever. I guess we'll take it.
Yeah.
She knows that Samara's trying to take her son, and she's like, you know what? I'll let her take me instead.
Which was super lame.
It
but
was
whatever.
a dumb thing, but
I mean, it's like the sacrifice bit, but it was just like, come on, like,
as a base idea, the sacrifice bit is good, right? It's always going to tug at the emotion. It's always
Yeah.
going to draw you in. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I get you kind of need something here. So she goes into the well, and Samara, you find out that Samara is just wanting a mother. Whatever. Which I don't understand why.
it's
like,
not what she wants. She wants revenge.
yeah, exactly. Her real mother tried to drown her. Her fake mother, her adopted mother, actually drowns her. Why do we want a mother at this point? It's like, I feel
I
like
know.
this is the one thing you don't want.
Yeah.
In the afterlife. And yeah, the first film is about her wanting revenge, not a mother. So anyway, it just
Yeah.
kind of like deviates on this story point. But when she gets to the well, and she notices that the well is like, it has this crescent moon shape because it's partway open.
Yeah.
So her like source of closure is to close Samara into the well, and so she starts climbing up the wall,
Mm-hmm.
and then Samara starts chasing her up the wall. So like it's a fight to who can get out faster. Either
Yeah.
Samara catches her or she gets out.
Yeah, that scene was cool.
And that scene was good because it was like it was the actually only.
But it had some stakes.
It had stakes. It had some stakes.
She
and
catches you, you die. That's interesting.
Yeah, bada bing. It was simple but effective. But yeah, so there was that, but also like she's walking super weird, and so it actually poses some tension. It was like, all right, I could deal with this. I wish more of the movie had something like this, because
Yeah.
the rest of it is just this amalgamation of just random horror movie tropes put in inappropriate places where you're
Mhm.
like, why did I see that? Like, what was this
Yeah.
serving at all? Like, there's a scene where she wakes the kid up, or tries to, and then she sees Samara against the wall, like scratching it or whatever, and then it turns into the Aiden. And he's like, I saw something. And then behind him, the wall like catches on fire and it looks like a tree. Like it burns this tree into the
From the
wall.
first movie, her like
Right.
tree or whatever in her little bedroom.
And so like some of that is okay. It doesn't do anything with it. It's just like, it's me. We know who it is. Like we all know who it is. Why are we doing this? It wasn't like she was trying to tell a message. It was just like she was trying to exclaim that it was her.
Yeah.
When it was extremely clear through the whole movie that it was her. So it was just like, well, okay, you gotta like have a purpose. Like you're not gonna put all this time and effort into these scenes.
Yeah.
Without it doing something for you. And apparently the director thought it was doing something, but it was doing nothing for the audience.
Well, yeah, well, them and the writer, because there's all these threads that have nothing to do with the original premise. It's like, because here's the thing, the original Ring sets it up at the very beginning. It's you watch the tape, then you get a call, and you have exactly 7 days until she finds you and she kills you. So that's your time limit. So that sets a really good stake for the movie, because then the main character who she watched it, and then she's like, and then she got the call, and then she's like, oh no, what? Then I don't believe it. We take a day or two to figure out,
which is
we
the
see
source of
distorted
tension.
photographs, and then that's really suspicious, and then she brings her ex into it, and then he starts questioning. He doesn't really buy it, but then more and more things start to illuminate that this is real and this is becoming a serious threat. And then the clock is ticking against you, so you're just on edge just from that alone. And in this movie, there's none of that, because they removed the whole tape situation. It's just like she's just a ghost now who wants to possess her kid.
Right.
What? It's so when? How long do we have? What
all the
options
rules
do we
out
have?
the window?
Yeah, it's like everything we learned about the first movie, it just doesn't matter. None of it matters. Like the only thing about that opening scene, you don't even need that. You could cut that out. All that does is establish that Samara is still out there. And the way to stop her is super stupid too, because it's like, well, you have to go into the TV and then close the lid so she can't get out. Oh, why didn't I think about that? I just close the lid. Now she can't get out, of course. So you trap her in there, which is even worse. Like in the first movie, they tried to put her soul to rest. That's what they're trying to do. It's a nice gesture. They're wrong because they don't understand like how much pain she went through, right?
You're right.
Who could understand like this horrible tragedy? It's awful.
No longer the human that died. It's the ghost, with the vengeance that's keeping it around.
Yeah.
And that was the point of it. Whereas this one, it's trying to add more humanity into it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it also makes it really sad because it's like, now this ghost just wants a mom, and she's like, no way. And just shuts her in. It's like, this is what got us here in the first place. Like, these people didn't love this child.
I know.
But yeah, that's an interesting point with the 7 days, because it's interesting because now you have this dilemma of, is this real? And if it is, what's the danger of showing other people? And then it shows like, oh, I just killed somebody by showing them.
Right.
But because I wasn't taking it seriously, but how do I take it seriously? You can't know it's true until you experience it. And by that time, it's too late.
Right.
So it's this interesting conundrum of like,
Yeah.
how long will it take you to understand that you're in danger before you do something about that danger?
In this one, it was just like, can we just move on to the next scene? I mean, what are we going to do now? Like, it's like, well, I guess we could have some elk attack them. That's what it feels like. It just feels like you pull an idea out of,
Yeah, what is that anyway? Like, that's not even a trope. It's just like a what?
Yeah, it's just
who
a random
thought of
thought.
this? Why?
So they go to a fair, and she's gonna say, "You can wander off by yourself, Aiden." Why would she? What kind of parent would do that? Like, isn't this like the helicopter parent generation at that point? It's like, this makes no sense.
I mean, even if it wasn't,
yeah,
would you allow your whatever-year-old to just wander off alone?
He's like 8 or 9. I don't think
she's
so.
Like, yeah.
Maybe if they had an older
Find something
sibling.
you want, just take these drugs and run off. Like,
yeah,
what are you
exactly.
doing? and then she panics for no reason. There's no reason. She just like,
yeah. Then she starts panicking.
Where's Aiden? It's
where's
the kid that you let wander off in a public setting? Like that one. What do you mean? Where is he?
As a parent, let's say, because he does give her a hard time. He always calls her Rachel. He doesn't call her mom.
Right.
So I get it that there's this contentious relationship. So I could see myself going like, okay, sure, wander off. And then like they wander off. And meanwhile, I'm just going.
Yeah. You're like,
I'm watching.
In eyesight. Yeah.
Yeah. Constantly. And then anyways, like he goes into like the bathroom and he's like taking photos like of the mirror because like he could see Samara in the mirror and she's like gets closer and closer in each of them. And then they use that later on for another contrived scene where she tries
They
to
never
bring
paid that off.
Nope.
I just realized.
Nope. No payoff for that.
I forgot about that.
She uses that to like show Max, the hot guy, like, oh, it's a ghost or whatever. And she just starts straight. She doesn't prep him by saying like, what I'm going to tell you sounds crazy.
No.
It's just like, it's a ghost and it's possessing him. And he's
trying
like,
to take my son and it's trying to use me to be its mom or something.
it's like, and she describes the motivation that Samara has. How does she know at this point in the movie?
Right. Yeah, she
doesn't
know
what Samara wants. She thought that she'd gotten rid of the ghost.
Well, so there's that. And there's also, like, this chick's already under investigation for abuse of her child.
Right.
And she's just spewing this thing to this guy she barely knows.
Well, I think that was before, and that was more piece of evidence. Well, I guess maybe not, because...
Was it? I don't know. Whatever.
Anyway, I don't know, but yeah.
Either way, it's like, why are you just saying this?
Yeah.
This is something you ease someone into, or you try and prove it. Like you have to have some proof to make them question at least.
Right.
She just looks like a lunatic.
Right.
She's just kind of fraying at the edges and like, there's a ghost chasing after us. And he's like, cool, I'm gonna go home, and I might call the cops if you show up there again. It just was like, why is this guy buying any of this? But the proof that she shows him is this camera or these pictures that Aiden took in the mirror, because I guess Samara's like right behind him or whatever.
Yeah.
And so
she is there in the pictures.
Right. And so she challenges him, hey, take a picture of Aiden.
Yeah.
And you tell me if Samara's there. So there's a scene where he's trying to take a picture and then Samara just butchers him, just like straight up out. You're done.
Yeah.
And then he gets a picture before that.
Yeah.
He sets it on a timer, he puts it on the table, and he walks away in order to distract
Samara's
her.
possessed Aiden at this point, and then Samara, as Aiden, is like, I'll tell you, but, I'll tell you why I don't want my picture taken, but only if you promise you won't take a picture. And he goes, sure. And then he, like, sets it up, puts it on the desk, sits down.
Then she sees the red light, obviously.
Yeah.
And so
then it cuts to him being killed.
Right. But it implies that the picture's taken.
Right.
I refer you to Chekhov's gun. Picture got taken, never referenced again.
Nope.
Just completely doesn't exist.
Yeah, I kept waiting for her to find the camera and see it.
Or something.
To, like, confirm that Aiden's been possessed, but she didn't need that.
Well, I wonder if there must have been, like, a cut scene in there.
Yeah.
Because she finds the dead guy, the hot guy, whatever his name is. She finds him dead in his truck.
Yeah.
In like, in the street. He's just parked there.
Yeah, with his engine on.
With his engine running. So, like, how long is that going to be before you have cops swarming the place?
Right.
So then she goes back inside knowing that Samara is now, like, taking over Aiden.
Right.
Goes up to her room and, like, breaks down. I was like, okay.
Well, before that, Aiden runs up to her and says, like, Mommy, which he never calls her that.
Right. So
he
she
always
knows,
calls her Rachel. So it's like she has all the proof she needs.
Yeah.
Like 3 times over. So she obviously doesn't need the photo from the picture. Right. But then why did we take the picture? Why does it matter?
Yeah. Why did you show us all this? Like, this is way too much work.
We see that and we go, ooh, this is now evidence. This is going to convince a character or mean something to a character. It means nothing.
Nothing at all. Well, so the camera just disappears also, because I looked at it before.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, it's gone. So did she, like, destroy it? Why wouldn't we see that?
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, so she goes up to her room after she gets all this discovery, and she shuts the door and has this breakdown.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's understandable. I can deal with that. But then,
because she thinks she has to kill her son because that's what the crazy lady told her. It's like, oh, if your kid gets possessed by a ghost, you got to kill them. You got to drown them.
And typically, when you have a scene like that,
okay,
it's the person comes to some kind of realization, right? It's a transformation. Nope. She cries and then just falls asleep.
Yeah, she just
for no
passes
reason.
out.
And in her dream, she gets to talk to Aiden because the dead don't sleep, is the implication. So since she can't sleep, she can't dream. Since she can't dream, she can't catch Aiden and his mom communicating, which in itself makes zero sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Wait, what? Why did you go to sleep? You know that this person has taken over Aiden and killed someone in your house like 5 minutes ago, and you're like, you know what? It's been a long day.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to bed, and I'll deal with this in the morning because I ain't got time for that right now.
I mean, even that's like lunatic. Like, I mean, you've got a dead guy in a
Right.
car out in the street.
You're gonna call the cops or confront Aiden or something useful. It's just
Did you kill that nice man?
Yeah. Tell me truthfully, honey. It just was odd. I was like, why is she sleeping now?
Yeah.
Because you don't even see her like go to bed, but she wakes up in bed. She doesn't fall asleep against the door or anything.
Right.
Somehow she gets into her bed for her beauty sleep, has this
Yeah.
dream, and then she's like, you know what? Now I should do something.
And
She
in
wakes
the
up in the middle of the
dream,
night.
like, Samara, he's like, oh, Samara's going to find us. And it's like, she shouldn't be able to get there. You just said that she couldn't when you like interact with you when you're asleep.
Right.
So, like, why is she invading the dream now? That makes no sense. I thought you said she couldn't be here.
Yeah.
Breaking your own rules. You
So-
made up new rules, then you broke them.
So the rules are all broken. The storyline is totally incoherent and inconsistent.
Yeah.
The villain's motivations, the antagonist's motivations just are all over the place. Like, it does
Yeah.
not make any sense. It's not a smooth transition from the first movie to the second movie.
No.
And it was a disappointment. Part of me wonders too, like, I don't know any of this for sure, but since he's a Japanese director, I wonder if maybe there was some like translation issues or something. Like maybe he couldn't direct an American crew and cast.
Yeah.
You know,
To get, well, I mean, because clearly, if the original is so revered, he must be,
he did something
he
right.
must have
Yeah.
done something right. I mean, even
Right.
Shyamalan, for all of his faults, he clearly had the right idea with Sixth Sense, and
Right.
we've gone over that. So yeah, I mean, he had to have. I don't know what was tripping him up here. I mean, it just does not work on any level. I mean, in this movie, like she literally like crushes up some like
Yeah, she
sleeping
straight up
pills,
drugs her kid.
drugs up her kid so she could drown him underwater, and then he's like, "Ugh," and the ghost comes out of him, and then we see the ghost, and the ghost just looks so bad at that point.
Yeah, they
Like,
CGI'd
so bad.
the ghost.
Yeah, they CGI'd her.
She
Why?
like comes out because she's like watery or whatever. It's like, why did you make her watery? Just because she was in the tub?
Yeah.
So now she's water? It didn't make any sense, but now we have to CGI that as well. And it looks just janky.
Yeah.
And then she disappears. Sun comes back.
Nothing like how she
But
looked
the
in the
sun's,
original,
like-
where she's like nasty and like.
Right, she's malicious looking. And she has
Yeah.
this kind of interesting film cover or something to make it look
yeah,
like
she
she's
like
from the
flickers
TV.
and stuff like she's
Yeah.
still in the film. It's
really
really
neat.
weird. Yeah.
But yeah, then Aiden, she's just drowned Aiden. And so she's like trying to revive him. No CBR, no mouth to
Yeah,
mouth.
she's just like, wake
She's
up.
just kind of like, Aiden, wake up. And it's like, you want to help him maybe? Like, you're the one who drowned the
then-
guy.
And then he was like underwater for like all of 5 minutes or whatever. And then he's just like, no, like,
Yeah,
all this water coming out of my throat.
none of the stereotypical choking and stuff. It's
Yeah, I was
just
like,
kind
you
of like,
can't even do movie CPR. Like, give me a break.
yeah.
So bad. Okay, so now that we've beaten it to hell, is it better or worse than Descent 2?
I'd almost have to say worse.
Okay.
So.
I
and
mean,
this-
this is a hard question.
This is almost not justifiable the way I think it is, but I'm going to do my best. So, Descent 2. Maybe this is an argument for Descent 2. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to give both my arguments just so you can kind of quantify.
Okay.
So, Descent 2.
Uh-huh.
It's almost like they watched the first one.
Uh-huh.
When you have a failing grade, it's very hard. I would say almost impossible to get a 0 on a test, right?
Yeah, because you'd have
Statistically-
to know the answers on some level.
Exactly.
Because if you just go randomly, you will get a couple of them right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever that number might be.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to know the answers or most of them in order to get a perfect 0,
Right.
right? It's almost as much work as getting a perfect 100.
Right.
Descent 2 is a perfect 0.
Yeah.
It's almost like they knew precisely what not to do and did it.
Right.
It's crazy.
It's so surreal.
It's a statistical anomaly, right? Because if that was by accident, it was like, man, you found every deep point of the first one and just reversed it or just crushed it, and you got all of them. They did a great job. So for this one though, it's so incoherent that like there's no value to it whatsoever. Like I can't.
Yeah, that's a
that
great way to
one
put it.
scene was the only one that was like. I didn't feel like I was
Yeah.
exasperated because I was like, all right, I can follow this.
It was
She's
both
trying to
like-
get out. She's tracing her. Like, all right, I got it.
Okay, a
It's good.
monster chasing a character.
I'm invested.
Okay,
I
all
wish
right.
more of that, please. I wish the whole movie was like that.
Yeah, seriously.
But the rest of it is just unbelievably incoherent. I
It's
could
so
not
bad.
follow it in any substantial level throughout the
Yeah.
whole film. You're just like, why is this happening? What was that? Wasn't that a rule that they established before? Why are we okay with drowning our son? I feel like we'd have a little bit more of a reservation about this. That kind
was
of thing.
supposed to be her breakdown moment, but then it's like, then we get this weird dream where she talks to him. What?
Right.
It
So-
it was a movie that was so, I mean, it was so reliant on us just emotionally giving it a pass for everything. It's like it thought that it had communicated the emotion of each character clearly enough that that's the only point that matters.
Maybe.
And I was just like, no, for one, that's not the only thing that matters. And for two, I'm not emotionally there with them because it doesn't,
I think it was
none of this stuff makes sense.
it was so reliant on its source material that it didn't. It was almost like people didn't feel like they had to try. Like really just trying
Yeah.
to. This is just a cash cow, so we don't really care. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
But what about you? What do you think?
Well, I think Descent 2 is worse.
It's definitely
still.
more personal offense to you, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, just because it like, well, I mean, this one. So this one doesn't. I'm trying to say like, this one doesn't do like it doesn't defame the main character. Like she does,
Fair.
she's dumber and she makes like decisions that aren't as competent in this movie.
Yeah.
But it's not like they made her a completely different person, and that's what they did in Descent 2, where the characters are like just flipped all over.
But everyone's all
like,
reversed. And yeah. That's fair.
So like at least it didn't do that. At least, but I mean that's not to say that there's anything meritorious about what they had here. I mean we were talking too. Like there's these shots of Aiden where he just like the kid's just he's not a great actor, and that really comes through in this particular movie. And in the first one it was tolerable. Like I didn't really notice. I was like, I guess he was fine. But in this one he's just like, Rachel, and it's like, dude, stop blinking and stop saying her name at the end of every sentence. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's real awkward and real.
He, like you said, he couldn't even eat a sandwich normally. He was like,
He's like, I was like, dude, just eat a sandwich, man.
Just
It's
eat the
clearly
sandwich.
chewing a real sandwich. Just do
what
it.
did you tell this kid as the director? Did you like tell him he has to communicate some emotion? Just tell him to eat this freaking sandwich and watch the television. That's all that needs to happen. Dude.
Yeah, he walked weird. Like he was just so stiff. It looked like he was like someone was threatening him behind the camera or something. He was like, dude,
Yeah,
just
maybe there
calm
was.
down, man. I know. It's all riding on your shoulders.
Yeah. And like the constant breaking of the rules was so annoying. Like she possesses him and then she starts mind controlling people because he's talking with.
Yeah.
There's this like psychologist lady who, because they think, oh, she's a bad mom and she abuses him, even though it's like you never saw a single mark on him. They said that there were marks, but we never saw anything. So
He had the handprint.
where?
Oh no, he didn't get that until later. Never mind.
I rest my case.
That's okay. So like, and forgive me for my like the details are just so scattered because this movie is so ridiculous.
It is a jarbled, but well, and it does
It's
that
all
thing where it's
over
like
the place.
we go to a scene, we do something, we leave, and then we go back to that scene like 2 scenes later
right.
to do the same thing that we already did, but it's slightly different.
And
So,
so
it
the
did that a lot.
Order of events just goes out the window.
It becomes a
It's
total mesh
hard
because you're
to
like, we're
remember.
back here again. Okay.
Either way, CPS is there somehow while they're talking because she's like trying to get out of him if he's in danger or whatever, which is all pretty reasonable.
Yeah, so she's a psychologist. She's evaluating.
But then he like looks down and
He's
like Samara comes in or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And this person like picks up a needle, fills it with air, shoves it in her throat.
and then
and it's
just
like-
and dies in the lamest way possible.
Yeah, she's like,
It's like that's not how Samara kills people.
yeah, she drags herself out of a TV and like scares them to death.
Yeah.
So it was weird. It was like, oh, is this part of the? She just can do this now. She can make people kill themselves because that's the only person she does it to.
yeah.
And then she's like, and I don't understand why this person.
Yeah. It's
You
like,
don't
why
wanna
are we
just-
killing her?
Just wait until she walks out of the room and then just leave. Like,
Why
do
not
we-
try to make her your mom?
or that?
It's like you could just throw anything at the wall. I mean, because like, here's why that whole scene too just like breaks not just the rules of this movie, but like of all horror movies. Because what you're supposed to do is set up the rules for like when the monster is allowed to attack you,
Sure.
so that we know like if there's like an on and off switch, and that's way for the audience they can be clued in to when that's going to happen, and that ignites like the fear and the suspense, like,
Right.
oh shoot, like it's been
It's
7
coming.
days, it's happening
Right.
now, or like, oh shoot, it's only at night, well it's nighttime now, or oh shoot, it's only when the lights are off, well the lights are all on, the lights went out, oh no, basic stuff, right? This wasn't any of that. So basically the filmmakers were like, well, Samara can only kill through the TV, but there's no TV here at the hospital, I guess we'll just have to do something else. That's not how it works. Like, you have to have a TV. Why there can't be a TV at the hospital?
Or something.
Or just not kill this person? Why are we
Well,
killing
yeah,
this
that
person?
was the thing that was the most annoying. Was just
But
like,
you see what I'm saying?
why?
Like how it just like it
Right.
flies in the face of like everything you would intuit. So just as an audience member in any way, whether you'd seen the first one or not, you would just be like, what is this?
Yeah, because your brain's picking up all that stuff,
She's
or
like,
or your
"Oh."
conscious is subconscious or conscious, and you're both of them are just like, none of this. You're not following anything, and so
Yeah.
you're just constantly. I just felt tired after this movie. I was like, man, this thing felt way longer than it
We
should.
had to take like a 5-minute break. We were dying.
Yeah, we were. Just
It
like,
was so
get
much. It
some
was
ice
so
cream and
miserable. Oh my
sanity.
gosh, I just need something.
But it goes, yeah, it's just too long, and it just constantly. I mean, it thinks that you're an idiot, the audience member, because it's
Yeah.
just constantly having to remind you of these points it already makes.
This 8-year-old checks himself out of the hospital.
Right, he just walks out, and you're like, no one like asked, "Who are you? Where are you going? What is this?" But yeah, and then aside from that, it does not give you any reasons for these things. Like it doesn't. There's no reason for this person to die.
Right.
It just didn't make any sense. I was like, well, why did we kill her? It didn't. She wasn't like. She didn't tie him to the bed or something to make like prevent him from leaving.
Right.
She was just asking some basic questions, at which point it would be like, just end the conversation and then she'll leave. She's a therapist, so she's probably going to be like, well, I'm not getting anything from you today, so I'm not going to push it.
Right.
And she thinks he's an abused kid, so obviously she's not going to like push
and
into that
Samara
territory.
has had interactions with like
Right.
psychoanalysts.
Yeah, it doesn't make
So-
it just made zero sense. And you're just like,
Yeah.
well, I guess this is just the thing in this film, just cause.
Yeah.
So too much of that, and it was all over the place, and it's just it is a bad movie. This is a terrible film. So
Yeah.
wait, what did you answer? Like which one is
So
worse?
I lean a little bit more on Descent's case,
Okay.
just because again, like the defaming of the main characters,
That's
I
fair.
think is
That's a
like
fair point.
a little more, and like also too, when Descent had was like, oh, we're just gonna light up the cave with a bunch of lights, you could just tell that that's what's happening. Whereas in this movie, yeah, I hate that they removed the filters, the cool like greenish blue filters, because that made it look interesting and unique. But like, that's not something that you necessarily have to do. I mean, I could argue that you'd have to do it, but you also don't like quite have to. But with
Sure.
like Descent, it's like you do have to, because now it looks fake.
Right.
It doesn't look like a different movie. It just looks fake and
Sure.
bad. You know what I mean? So there's kind of a, but these are like credits to things that no movie should ever. I guess Descent is just that bad. So for me, this movie, The Ring 2 is 0%, and Descent 2 is like a -2%.
None of them get a pass. One gets an anti-pass. That's fair.
What about for you? I mean, I feel like this one bothered you more.
No, they both bother me. Don't get me wrong. Like that was a rough movie. I will say the only thing I can say about Descent 2 is that it does have a through line. Like it at least goes in a direction.
It's a stupid one, but it does go.
It
that
has
route.
a direction. That's the one thing I can say about
It's
it.
less garbled with the actual storytelling.
It's
That's
not.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not so just all over the place and
This one's
messy.
just like, here's a spooky scene, just for the heck of
Just
it.
yeah, and I mean it's not even just spooky scenes. It's a bunch of scenes. Like it's just
Yeah.
like, what is this doing? Why does this belong here? I don't
Yeah.
know. Just put it in.
They both made me really hate that they exist, though.
Yeah.
It kind of made me just.
Well, that's the problem is that there are
Yeah.
these lazy sequels that are just existing to be a sequel. Like it's just to have a sequel.
Yeah.
And the point is, when you have an audience, is like, well, we want a sequel that expounds on these ideas, maybe that weren't given enough time to flesh out in the first one, or
Yeah.
that we thought were interesting, we want to see more of, that kind of thing. These ones are just like, well, people really like these, so I guess we'll make another one. And that's what it felt like. It's just like, okay, well, it would have been better if you just didn't at that point.
Yeah, it's like they hired the director from the original Ring movies because they were like, well, you know what, we
This will
want
get butts
that
and seats.
success
Yeah.
here. Yeah. And I don't know. I felt like Gore Verbinski did a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, I get audiences didn't give it a great review, but I just feel like culturally it was a success. And I don't know. I don't think you could really replicate it. Like, I will say that much. Like, as much as I like Descent just as a movie, I feel like The Ring had a little bit more like staying power. I feel like people like I don't think really people remember The Descent that well. I mean, it could be because that's like a
It's well regarded for what it is, but it's definitely not as iconic as some of these other titles like The Ring.
yeah, The Ring is definitely more iconic, and it has more recognizability.
Yeah.
And
right.
That lends to a kind of like charm or endearment that they do so many sequels for like Saw. It's like Saw 15 or whatever.
It's just a franchise. Yeah, it's like
and I wonder, it's like I guess we should be grateful they didn't do that with these, but with like Descent and Ring, it's interesting how they do like one great one and then one horribly crappy one. And then then it just stops. Yeah. It's interesting how that happens, because like with the Saw or like Scream or whatever, they have like 10,000 sequels. Why did we stop here? I mean, I'm glad you did stop, but like, why did you stop? Like, why not just do 15 more of these Ring movies and make them all as crappy as the last one? I mean, that's what you're into.
Could not tell you. We'd have to do some episode on the psychology of that at some point, or like what causes a yes or
These
no.
must be genuinely more terrible than the sequels of those other big franchises. That's gonna be my guess. Is that they're really just that bad.
I'm not a fan of the Saw franchise, so I couldn't tell you. I really didn't make it past the first one, so
I'm just assuming that those movies are
right.
appealing to their audience better.
Potentially. I mean, they might have like a factor in there that's more appealing than what can be found in The Ring or just that. Again, those are such self-contained narratives that why would you franchise them? Why would you make anything else?
Yeah,
it just ends well. It's done well. Like just leave well enough alone. And I think that's the philosophy of this episode. It's just like find out, is there a reason to justify your sequel, and if so, great. If not, let it
go. Yeah, else.
I think that's a good point to end right there.
I'm with you.
Well done.
I will say that as a final comment, I feel like we didn't talk quite as much about the first Ring, but like honestly, it's one of those things where it's sort of, I'm like, I don't even know, I don't feel the need to discuss it so extensively. It just is like the movie speaks so well for itself.
Complaining is always better than praise. So
yeah, well, the second one definitely gave us a lot to chew on.
I praise how bad you made the movie.
Well done.
Well done. And with that, I'm going to close this episode. That's been our analysis of the Ring films. Thank you for watching the HolmFront.